Hi everyone, it's me, Krylios, Team Racing Productions MC and producer. And joining me today, my guest that I'm so happy to have is Dontrell Smith. And Dontrell is running for the State Board of Education here in the District of Columbia. Hey Dontrell, nice to meet you. Welcome.
Welcome. Thanks for inviting me out today.
Definitely. Thank you so much for being here. It's our pleasure. Now, let's get this started with, give me a little bit about your background and why you've chosen to run for State Board of Education this year.
So, a little bit about me. I'm a native Washingtonian. I attended DC Public Schools K through 12. I actually graduated from Woodrow Wilson Senior High School, class of 2006. Post graduating from Woodrow Wilson Senior High School, I attended Howard University where I earned my bachelor's in accounting in
It's
2010,
you.
and then got my MBA in accounting from Howard University as well. I'm the youngest of six siblings. We all five of us graduated from DC Public Schools, and all six of us graduated from Howard University. Currently, I'm a proud parent of two sons attending DC Public Schools as well. And I'm glad you asked me why I'm running. The biggest thing why I'm running is first, as a parent of a DC Public School student, as well as I'm also a former substitute teacher from DC Public Schools for the past 5 years. And during my time as being a parent, I learned a huge, as well as a substitute teacher, the huge education equity gap throughout the District of Columbia. Schools on the northwest side and in wards 3 and 4 is totally different from schools east of the river 7 and 8. Me living in Ward 7, I would love for my son to be able to walk to his neighborhood school to get a good quality education. But the hardest part is when I moved over here in 2014, became a homeowner, I still make that dreadful 45-minute, 35 to 45-minute drive across town for my son's education. So I'm trying to push to become and to help bridge the gap and help bring. So I'm bringing 3 points towards 7: accountability, transparency, and education equity. And within all of those points, I call that Division 7. So accountability, I want to coordinate and work with DC Public Schools Central Administration Office to monitor the funding sources for Ward 7 schools to ensure the adequate of classroom instruction, strong curriculum, and the core competencies, staffing, and supplemental resources, and provide wraparound services. The next point of accountability is to review each Ward 7 elementary, middle school, and high school comprehensive school plan and utilize the STAR framework and identify the strengths, weaknesses to coordinate with the local school advisory teams and PTAs or PTOs organizations to improve the outcome. The second vision I really want to focus on is transparency. Compile and blend the considerations of Ward 7 stakeholders regarding the reopening for Ward 7 schools and help to identify the current policies which will require advocacy and a combination of those valuable considerations. And also with transparency, establish effective communication pipelines with those entities to drive data collection and alignment of advocacy. The biggest thing with transparency, schools are only as strong as their community. We got to hold everyone accountable, from parents to ANCs to civic associations to education council to state board of education rep to even our own council member. Everyone got to be accountable. Schools are definitely strong with PTAs and strong community involvement. And the biggest thing that I wanted to touch on is education equity. When you drive, to drive advocacy with education equity, I want to reestablish the feeder patterns in the direction of STEM, finance, arts and culture, vocational training, and business to coordinate the elementary and the middle school curriculum progression to high school. And also review and identify appropriate revisions of the state standards relative to Ward 7 schools and focus on the mission to intervene and redirect schools that are on the pathways of low enrollment and low performance. And also, lastly, work collectively and advocating the efforts with DCPS and the teachers union to provide academic and technical career programs which will effectively prepare our students with strong foundation English and language arts, mathematics, science, and history. But when I talk about education equity, I want to elaborate that on because, for starters, schools should be like Chick-fil-A. When you go to Chick-fil-A, you get good customer service, you get good product, and you get a good experience. So regardless of what school you choose in the district, whether it's Ward 3 or Ward 7, Ward 8, they should all be the same. It should be the same education throughout the whole city. And that's why I say like that. And also with school should be one-to-one. When I say one-to-one, if it's 250 students, it should be 250 laptops. I should not be holding your class up because I got the cart with the laptops. And that could be start with tackling the issues with the available resources within our schools.
Very good. Very good. Thank you. Thank you so much. And I'm aware that with COVID going on and everything, education right now especially has, a magnifying glass on it. Tell me how you plan to address the concerns and the changes that have come about to the education system and the school system in general because of the
So,
COVID-19 outbreak.
so you went a little bit out. If you can repeat your question, you went a little bit out. I heard bits and pieces. I'm sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry about that. I'm sorry about it. Yeah, I asked, with the COVID-19 pandemic going on, I'm sure, there's been many changes and adaptations that one has to take into consideration when it comes to education now. So tell me about any of those challenges that you want to tackle going in that's, for education that is based upon any changes that we have to get implemented because of this pandemic.
Oh, the biggest thing about this pandemic, the biggest thing, you got to make sure that students receive the same amount of resources at home that they're supposed to receive within the school system. But many times the district is facing many lawsuits because we don't monitor the IDAs or the IEPs about students that receive additional support services, such as speech pathology, occupational therapy, behaviors, and those areas is very key. So we want to provide, everyone should have a great learning environment, but we also want to make sure we cover our students with disabilities or at risk to make sure they get their additional support resources that they normally receive within the classroom. I hear a lot of people talking about, oh, the students should go back to school. We putting all these measures in place. We could put all these measures in place, but we also got to realize that DC doesn't have busing. So we got to catch public transportation to get to school, whether it's train or bus. So we could have all these steps within the schools to how we could effectively clean it and monitor it, but students may contract it on public transportation. And that's a huge thing that we also got to work with Metro, work with and make sure those steps, because currently you get on the Metro train, students are getting on at the back of the bus. So you could contract this sitting on the back of the bus, and therefore you're exposing a lot of students within the school. So we got to make sure that the public transportation system is effectively clean and sanitized, or maybe provide, busing just for only DC public students to get on the bus, and that way you're not interacting with the general public. But it goes back to, we got to make sure we support the students that require the most attention and at risk. Like we always say back in the day, no child left behind, and currently every student succeeds act. So we got to make sure we're able to provide wraparound services for all students, regardless if they're high performing, low performing, at risk, or disabilities. Make sure everyone is getting the right service they succeed, to make sure every student succeeds.
Definitely. Now tell me this, what makes you the perfect choice for this position? What makes you stand out? Why voters should select you, Dontrell Smith, as the State Board of Education, as the new person on the State Board of Education?
Well, it's a couple of things that really stand out for me. The huge thing is, I'm an accountant by trade. In trade, the biggest things, a lot of people talk about accountability, the amount of resources. The biggest thing is, as an accountant, as an auditor, you got to dig deep. You got to go inside. You got to do these surveys, do the risk assessments, find out what is the root cause of the issues. You're going to have to look at funding, budgetary documents. You're going to have to look at a lot of policies, a lot of guidance. For me being an internal control auditor, I dig deep. People do not like auditors at all, because they're going to dig, and they're going to dig till they get the root cause and try to provide corrective action plan. Another thing, I have been in the school system working as a substitute teacher. I did elementary, middle school, and high school. I seen the huge disparity across the city. I actually had day-to-day life lessons within these schools. Every day when I'm off on Fridays, I substitute teach in DC public schools. And I notice a huge education equity gap across the city. And most importantly, I'm a parent. I'm a dad. I'm fighting for any child, not only just my child, everyone that has a child. I have a direct impact that other candidates cannot say. Any decision that I make, any policy that I push, any bridging the gap that I push, any advocating that I do, is not only for your child, your niece, your nephew, your brother, your sister, but my own child. I have a direct impact, and I will put a parent first voice, and I'm gonna push forward initiatives. You know, a lot of people have different agendas, but no, not me. It's two things I care about: education and the youth. And I want to make sure all students succeed and get the great and the best opportunity. I'm a product of DC Public Schools. I'm a parent of DC Public School students. I work for DC Public Schools as a substitute teacher, and I think I could bring the best voice for not only Ward 7, but for the whole entire city to help change the State Board of Education.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. And before we go, could you just go ahead and share how people can support your campaign, how they can find out more, and how they can follow you?
Oh, good. I'm glad you said that. So you can follow me on Instagram for Dontrell_7 SBOE. I'm also on Twitter, Dontrell DONTRELL, the number 4 SBOEW7, and also on my website, Dontrell DONTRELL _FORWARD and the number 7.com.
Thank you so much, Dontrell, and our viewers. All that information will be available in the description below. Thank you so much, Dontrell, for joining me today. It's been such a pleasure, and good luck.
Thank you so much. Have a good day.
Thank you, you too. And to our viewers, thank you for watching. Bye.